Hello, my name is Kenny, and today I'd like us to look at the Watch API that shipped with Vue 3. It is particularly interesting to me because I found out there's some nuance around how it works. It behaves differently depending on the kind of data you pass into it, and I think it's worth noting how some of it sorts, how it works sometimes. So in this tutorial, we're going to do like a small deep dive into the Watch API and see how it works when you're working with revs, when you're working with reactive, when you're working with arrays and objects and all of that. So let's get started. Here I've set up a Vue project that doesn't do anything at the moment, just a HTML form with name and email input and a button to submit. So let's start by creating a ref. And I will create a setup function here and create a ref name and set it to be empty for the meantime. And the next thing I want to do is return it in the setup function so that it can be accessible in the template. And I'm already using vmodel to bind it in the template, so this should work. What I want to do though is use the Watch API to know when the value of name has changed. And when that happens, I will use a callback function to log or do anything else I want to do. In this case, I just want to log it to the console. But before I log it, the callback function gives us access to the current value of name and the previous value. I prefer to call it old value so that I type less. And what I want to do when the value changes is log the current value to the console. Actually, I think maybe I should log the old value as well, just so that we are tracking both changes and the difference. And if I did everything right, this should work now. I have the project running here, so I will just do a quick restart. And if I type name and something is wrong, I don't know what it is, but let me find out. And email, oh, because I'm binding to the email and I'm not returning it in setup, Vue doesn't know what I'm trying to do there. But this should work now. Now start afresh. And if I do name, now you see I have the current value and the old value. And for each keystroke, the Watch API, the callback function in the Watch API executes and logs the current value to the console. So from start, when I typed the first key, it was just N, that was the current value, and it was empty before. That's why there's nothing on this column. And then subsequently, there's NA and all of that. And that is how, in a nutshell, how you watch just a single ref. What more? The next thing that we can do is watch for multiple refs. Say, for instance, we want to watch both name and email, right, and monitor their changes. What we can do is pass it into. Let's actually do that, as opposed to just explaining it. Email, and I got rid of the vmodel, and I have to put it back and return it in the setup function. And so now, instead of watching just name, what I can do is pass in an array that holds both name and email. In that way, we can track both refs at the same time. And if I haven't done anything wrong, this should work just as it did before. So now if I type name again, we see that it's tracking both name and email. So let's type email. And that's it. So the current value as of when I stop typing is name and email, and we're tracking both of them successfully. Now that that is done, the next thing I want to talk about is how to watch for arrays, right? Let me quickly comment this out just to keep it neat. And the next thing I want to do is create an array called labels, for instance, and put a bunch of values in it. And what I want to do when this value changes is I want to watch, and the difference from what we've done so far is that when you're watching arrays, you need to return a copy of the array you want to watch. And to do that, we can use an anonymous function to return labels.value. This is not all. Because it is an array, you have to return a copy, like I said, not just directly as we did with the revs. And one more thing we need to do is, of course, passing a callback function that will give us access to the current value and the old value. And now, when the value of the labels array changes, we want to log it to the console. And that will be current value and old value. But how do we update the labels array? What I can do is use this button that I have in the markup with a method of do something. And let's set it up to actually do something. And that will be, what I want it to do is update, push a new value to the labels array, and the value I want to push is 4. So when I click this button, it updates the labels array, and then this executes and logs the current and the old value. So let's see if I definitely should not be returning this to, rather I should be returning do something. Current value, I misspelled something, I think. Is that correct? Let's find out. Awesome. Okay, so if I refresh this page, okay, this is complaining because I still have these guys in the console. So oh my God, I still have it in the template. I like to keep it neat. So now it's gone. So if I press this button, I should update the array and I will log it to the console, and it works. This is the current value and this is the old value. So if I try it again, you see that once the value of the array changes, it logs the current value and the old value for us. And that is how to watch multiple, how to watch an array with the watch API. The next thing I want to talk about is how to watch the object, right? For instance, if I have a reactive object and I have a few properties inside the object and I want to watch the entire object, how do I do that? And that is what I want to show you. And let me quickly comment this out once again. Remove do something from here. And what I want to do is have an object called levels. And this is going to be reactive. And it's going to be name is empty and email is also empty. And because I removed the vmodel bindings, I have to put it all back. I'm sorry, I have some very strict LinkedIn rules that is forcing me to do all the right things. Now I have to use 2refs and return. So let's spell that and return the levels object. but of course we have to destructure it. And I don't know if I have two refs. I have to import two refs as well. And now ref and watch are not being used. So of course LinkedIn is telling me to get rid of it. But I want to use watch, and what I want to do is pass in the levels object and say that when it changes, I need access to the current value and the old value. And let's log it to the console like we did before. And once again, I misspelled something. I'm not sure what, but this is definitely what I'm doing wrong. Cool. All right, so let's see how that works. So if I type name, I get the same updates as I did before with when I was watching multiple refs. And if I did email, I see that I'm comfortably tracking the entire level subject. And I think calling it levels here is a bit confusing, so I'm just going to use state. Watch state here, right? So once again, name and email, tracking it successfully. Cool. The next thing I want to do though is, or more like the next thing I want to show you is the fact that you may not have noticed it, but the current value and the old value is in fact the same. So if you look at this, what I'm logging to the console is current value, then old value. If you look at the last log, the current value is name and the old value is also name. So basically, it's not getting updated. And I'll show you how to get it to work. If you look at here as well, it's the same. If I type on the email field, you'll see email. You see that the last current value and old value is in fact the same. Nothing changes. What Vue recommends that we do is do a deep clone of the object that we want to track. And to do that, I'm just going to use Lodash, right? And what you can do to get it to work as you want is, of course, you're going to use an anonymous function here, return the data you want to watch. But in this case, we want to use Lodash and do the clone deep and pass the state. And that is it. If I did not do something wrong, this should work exactly as we expect. And now, if I reload and type name, now we see that we are tracking both the previous value and the current value. If I do the same for email, you see that the old value is EMAI, the current value is EMAIL, which is what we want. And that is how to track arrays and deeply nested objects when you have to like dig deeper into the object and when you want to do a deep clone of the data you want to watch so that you're watching every aspect of it. And that is it. If there's something else I need to cover, if there's something else I need to watch for, you just let me know and I will do that. And I think the one last thing I should cover is how to watch specific properties inside an array, right? Because at this point I'm watching the entire array object, sorry, the entire state object. And what if I didn't want to do that? What if I wanted to watch state.name instead? You might assume that I would have to do something like state.name, and that wouldn't work. Let me get rid of this. And that would definitely not work. And because that's just the wrong way to do it. What you need to do is, once again, return the exact property you want to watch, like this, right? And if I'm not doing anything wrong, that should definitely work. So this is how you track a particular property inside an object, and like not track anything else, email or whatever else you might have here. So if I start typing here, I'm getting the old and the current value. But if I type in the email field, nothing happens. And that is it. I felt like this is there's a lot of nuance on how the Watch API works and how it behaves when you pass in different values to it. And I wanted to point it out and show you guys how it's done. So that is it from me today. If you have any more questions on how the Watch API works, or pretty much any questions around how Vue 3 works and the Composition API, I'm happy to answer them for you. You can find me on Twitter at Kenny_IO. And if you have any questions, I'll be watching the comments. Thank you.